What is a masterpiece?
A masterpiece is something very special. The prettiest thing that ever you've seen. A masterpiece is something that you make that is so special to you that you never stop loving it.
How do you begin work on a masterpiece?
I can draw it on paper.
Paint splattered all over the place.
Had some yellow and I put a little bit of green in it and mixed it up. Pastel or like these to color with.
The beginnings of a masterpiece. Paper and pencil. And soon shapes take form. Colors are added. The image comes to life. One beautiful work of art. One beautiful masterpiece. You are a masterpiece. You are a very special design, different from anyone else. Your tastes are different.
My favorite fruit is cantaloupe.
I love spaghetti. I like vanilla ice cream.
Your faces are different.
My dad loves my eyes. My brother and me have red hair. I have freckles on my nose.
And your thoughts are different.
I love to swim. When I like to be a flower girl.
I love to sing.
Each of you is a beautiful and unique masterpiece. And although you may look, think, and feel differently than each other, your lives began in the exact same way. In fact, everyone in the whole wide world began his or her life in the same way. We all came into this world as babies. We were so cute. But did you know our lives began even before we were born? It's amazing to think about. Look closely at the pencil dot on the screen. Do you see it? Well, when your life began, you were no bigger than the size of that pencil dot. Wow! Hard to believe, isn't it? Let me take you on a journey. A journey of how your life began. Your father's body contains sperm cells, and your mother's body contains egg cells. One egg cell is as tiny as the head of a pin. And one sperm cell is much, much tinier than an egg cell. You can't even see sperm cells with your eyes. You can only see them under a microscope. All the egg cells needed to populate the entire world could fit into this cookie jar.
Wow, that's a lot of eggs.
And all the sperm cells needed to populate the world could fit into that small measuring spoon. No, not that one, the little one. Can you imagine how very tiny they are? When an egg cell and a sperm cell joined together and fused, your wonderful life began. Fused means that the egg cell and the sperm cell actually blended together to form just one single cell. At that very moment, it was determined what you would look like. Whether you'd have brown eyes or blue, curly hair or straight hair. Whether you might like computers or sports, music or art. That's because each egg cell and each sperm cell contains something amazing called chromosomes and genes. You get 23 chromosomes from your mom and 23 from your dad.
Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad.
These chromosomes and genes also determine if you'll be a boy or a girl, or if your skin color will be dark or light. When the egg and sperm cells came together and fused to form a new human life, you, the masterpiece, began. You continue to develop and grow for 9 months or 38 weeks. That's almost as long as a school year. You were growing and changing as you lived inside your mother in a special place called the womb. And you had different names to describe you as you developed and grew during those 9 months, finally becoming who you are today. For instance, when your life first began as a tiny dot, you were called a zygote.
Zygote, what?
That sounds a lot funnier than Stephen or Julie, doesn't it? But a zygote describes you during your first few days of life inside your mother. You began as a single-celled human when the egg cell and sperm cell first came together and fused.
I bet my daddy doesn't know all this.
That's when you decided to take your very first trip. You began to travel down a long tube called the fallopian tube.
What do you say?
That's a tough word, isn't it? Again, fallopian tube.
Fallopian tube.
While you traveled down the fallopian tube, your single cell had already begun to divide and grow into many cells. And after a few days, you finally settled into your mother's womb. Now you can be called an embryo.
Embryo.
That's right. You went from being a zygote, the size of a dot, to a tiny growing embryo. Your heart, lungs, and kidneys had begun to form, and your brain continued to develop. Just imagine. By the time you were 3 weeks old, your little heart was working. It was beating and pumping blood to your little forming body. Your heartbeat was very fast. In fact, it was twice as fast as your mom's. And check out those tiny arms and legs that are beginning to develop. This is what you looked like after only 2 months or 8 weeks in your mother's womb. Look at your fingers and toes. You even had eyelids. Your eyelids will soon close and remain closed for about 4 months in order to protect your forming eyes. After 8 weeks, you were no longer called an embryo. From this point on, you would be known as a fetus.
Fetus.
That's right, which means little one. If you look closely, you can see that you lived inside of what looks like a balloon. That's called an amniotic sac.
I think that's a hard word for me to say.
Well, just try it. Amniotic sac.
Amniotic sac.
Great! And inside the amniotic sac was your very own swimming pool. The water in your swimming pool was called amniotic fluid. You lived in this fluid, and it was like staying underwater all of the time. You didn't drown, though, because you got your oxygen through your umbilical cord. That's the umbilical cord attached to the baby's tummy at one end and the mother's womb at the other end. The umbilical cord carries oxygen and food from the mother to the baby. It becomes the baby's lifeline.
What?
Lifeline. Think about an astronaut floating in space. During the early years of the space program, the astronaut was attached to the spacecraft by what was called an umbilical cord. It was a lifeline or life support, providing oxygen for the astronaut to breathe while he walked in space. The spacecraft was even called a mothership. While you lived in the womb, your life support was your mother. You were totally separate from her, but you needed her in order to survive, just like the astronaut needed his mothership. After you were born, you breathed air and drank milk. You didn't need your umbilical cord any longer, so the doctor put a clamp on the cord, then cut it. And you know what? It didn't even hurt. In a week or so, the clamp and cord fell off, and you were left with a scar on your tummy. Do you know what that scar is called?
Belly button.
It sure is.
Some babies get belly buttons that stick out and some go in.
That's right, Ellie. And the next time you check to see if you have an innie or an outie, think about the amazing umbilical cord that was your lifeline before you were born. Here's another word for you to learn. Placenta. Can you say that?
Placenta.
Very good. The placenta is an incredible organ that does all kinds of wonderful things. First of all, it helps attach your umbilical cord to your mother's womb. It allows water, vitamins, and other good things like oxygen to pass from your mom to you. And it produces special chemicals called hormones. It also carries away waste products from you back to your mom, so her body can get rid of them for you. The placenta even does another special thing. It acts like a filter. And do you know what a filter in a swimming pool does?
It keeps the water clean and healthy.
That's right. And the placenta helps to keep the baby in the womb healthy too. There sure is a lot going on, and we're only 2 months into your mom's pregnancy. But look, even at only 2 months, your masterpiece is taking shape. Before we see how the next part of your masterpiece develops, let's take time to talk about what we just learned. How did your life begin?
It was amazing.
Well, amazing it was. Your life began when an egg cell from your mom and a sperm cell from your dad united and fused, becoming one single cell. Where did you live before you were born?
Las Vegas. Probably in a blue house.
You may have been born in Las Vegas, or perhaps even in a blue house, but you lived inside a special place before you were born.
I used to live inside my mommy.
That's right, Jeffrey. And that special place inside your mommy was called a womb. How long did you live in your mommy's womb?
Let me see. 9 months.
That's right. Now, let me ask you this. What is a zygote?
I have no idea.
Zygote.
Well, it is a funny word, but zygote was what you were called when you first began your life journey as a single cell. Once you changed from a zygote, what were you called?
Embryo. Embryo.
Excellent. And after embryo, what were you called?
Fetus.
That's right. You were first called a zygote, then an embryo, and finally you were called a fetus until you were born. While inside your mother's womb, you lived in a sac that looked like a balloon. Do you remember the name of that sac?
Amniotic sac. Amniotic sac.
Exactly, an amniotic sac. And your swimming pool water was called amniotic fluid. I have one more question. Do you remember the name of the cord that fed you while you lived in your mother's womb?
Umbilical cord.
Right. And remember, it was attached to your tummy at one end and to a placenta inside your mother's womb at the other end.
That's a lot of stuff to remember.
It is a lot to remember, but it's all part of your amazing masterpiece, who you are today. Now let's get back to the rest of your story. You are now called a fetus. Remember, fetus means little one. So far, you've been lying in your mother's womb for 3 months. That's about as long as your summer vacation. And guess what? At just 3 months, you were bouncing around and even doing somersaults in your own private swimming pool. But your mom couldn't feel you move yet because you were still so tiny. At this age, you only weighed as much as your first birthday card. Just less than an ounce. Can you believe it? Look how specially you were formed. A wonderful masterpiece with little feet and hands. You could curl your toes, make a fist, and open and close your mouth. During the 4th month in the womb, your bones were getting stronger, and all the little parts of your body that were formed by now just grew bigger and bigger. Even your heart, lungs, liver, and kidneys were already formed and continue to grow. And soft, downy hair covered almost all of your body, kind of like peach fuzz. And now your mom is beginning to feel you move. The most amazing thing about you at this age is that you now weigh 4 times more than you did just a month ago. That means you went from the weight of this one birthday card to the total weight of the card, a birthday plate, napkin, 5 party hats, and a plastic fork.
I didn't know that.
During your 5th month, you grew to be as long as this party horn, about 10 inches, and weighed as much as this bag of candy, almost a pound. Your fingernails and toenails were growing and just waiting to be clipped. Your mom's tummy got bigger by this time, and everyone started asking her when her baby would be born. But you weren't in any hurry. 4 more months to go. You seemed to be just taking it easy and relaxing in your own little swimming pool. While you were relaxing, Mom and Dad got a great picture of you with the help of a special machine called an ultrasound. This ultrasound machine gave everyone a chance to take a peek at you inside your mother's womb before you were born. And the doctor could even tell at this time if you were a boy or girl. Listen to all the sounds that can be heard inside the womb. You can even hear your own heartbeat. Pretty fun and soothing in there, isn't it? No wonder you weren't ready to come out. Going into the 6th month, your mom felt you kick and move almost all the time. There were times when she thought you were jumping rope in there and would never stop. And oh my goodness, did you have hiccups? You'd make your mom's tummy move up and down with those hiccups of yours. And do you know what? You also took naps. Your mom could tell when you were probably sleeping because you would quiet down and not move so much. At 7 months, you weighed about 3 pounds. That's the weight of this birthday cake. Soon you got too big to do those somersaults, so you just hung around.
And I sucked my thumb.
Yes, you probably sucked your thumb for 2 or more months, waiting while your lungs got stronger and you got bigger and bigger. Now, at 8 months, you weighed as much as a birthday cake and a big pitcher of fruit punch, about 5 pounds. And now you were almost as long as 2 party horns, about 18 inches from head to toe. You waited and grew for another month. Then, finally, the big day arrived, the unveiling of a wonderful masterpiece, your birth. Your mom told me that you let out a loud cry to announce to the world that you arrived. Zygote, embryo, and fetus were names describing you as you grew inside your mother. But after you were born, your parents gave you your very own special name.
Jason.
Janelle.
Rihanna.
Ryan.
Nalani.
Elias.
Jeffrey.
What a wonderful story. And it's your story. As you grow older and bigger, your looks will change and your body will change. But you will still be the very same person you were when you were first formed in your mother's womb. You are wonderfully made, a true miracle, a masterpiece for the world to see. And it all began even before you were born.
You are such a masterpiece.